everyone. Hello, and welcome to the Cloud English Podcast. We have a lot of great things planned for this episode. I hope you are ready to learn a lot about pronunciation. We're going to be talking about other things as well, but this will be our focus for today. This is going to be day 2 of, well, I shouldn't say going to be and is day 2 of our 15-day English training program, our English fluency program, okay? We're going to be covering a lot of things in this 15 days. It's not 15 consecutive days, but will ultimately be a 15-day program. Last time we focused on the mindset that you need. In today's episode, we're really going to be focusing on how to sound more natural. I'm going to go through the agenda, a few things at the top of the show, and then we can get into it, okay? Today is October 26th, 2020. Something in my brain won't let me say the correct year. 2025. Okay, that's what year it is. I don't know why I have a little chip in my brain, a little person that says to never be completely authentic all the time. Never be totally sincere. Actually, sincere is the word, not authentic. I think authentic can be insincere. Insincerity can be part of someone's authenticity. That's my opinion. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the shadowing exercise. Now, you may know that from previous videos. I've mentioned it in some courses as well, but we're going to be doing a bit of a deep dive. I'm going to be showing you exactly how it works with an example and giving you specific tips and a step-by-step process for doing it yourself. Okay, that's critical. How you can improve your pronunciation through shadowing. We'll also talk about how to make sure you're building the correct pronunciation goals. It can be tricky because pronunciation is a bit of a fuzzy topic, right? How do you know you're making progress, for example? And how do you know what to aim at when it comes to pronunciation? You want to sound exactly like another person? Well, we'll talk about it, okay? We will absolutely get there. I'm going to be answering questions as I usually do. I'm going to be answering pronunciation questions. This is live, so those watching now, put your questions in, whether they're pronunciation related, grammar, idioms, culture, different types of tacos, whatever. If you're watching later, you can make sure to try to join live on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. Or if you enjoy listening or watching later, that's fine too. You can pop your comments into the comments, of course. But if you want to interact a little bit more in depth, you can join our very new community Discord. I've decided on Discord as a place to build a community. I don't want it to be a major, huge thing, but feel free to join. For now, it's open enrollment. It may be closed in the future. So if you want to have conversations, have sort of English immersion. I'm not making any promises about, being in there teaching things all the time. That's what I do here, right? But I will be there to have conversations and facilitate discussions and hopefully do more exciting things in the future, like buddy pairing to practice and projects, movie discussions, book clubs, and so on. So join the Discord with the link in the description. You can also check out my full courses in the links in the description. The first of those, Natural English Conversations, is my only free course. So you can sign up for that for free. It's a 1-hour course where you will learn how to have natural English conversations. It's a fun sort of entry to my other courses, which are much more in-depth. That is a 1-hour course. My other courses may be 7, 8, 15 hours long, for example. So check those out as well. You can also sign up for a monthly or yearly membership to get access to all of them. Okay, what else do we have? Yeah, if you're watching live, feel free to hit the like button. Subscribe, that helps out a lot. If you're listening later, wherever you're watching, show support, that helps a lot. Whether that's 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or honestly not sure what it is on Spotify. Maybe just generally just do a little dance and maybe Spotify will know somehow. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't listen to Spotify that much. What else? What else do we have? Yeah, people have been asking me for a long time to put the episodes we do live as an audio for a couple reasons. Number one, it's really hard to look at my stupid face for almost 2 hours, right? And I think that's fair. I think that's reasonable. And number two, it's easier to walk around, go for a walk, do some housework, and listen, improve your English, learn some things without having the sort of, well, not pressure, but inconvenience of having to sit there and look at something, right? Okay, so that's all of our sort of top of the show business. I've covered the agenda. I want to also mention that as we go through the topics, I will also be giving challenges. So be prepared to try the challenges. Be prepared to do them, right? If you want to improve your pronunciation, I'm going to give you an exact way to do that. I want you to actually do something because doing something is how you improve. So with our first 2 topics, I'm going to be actually giving out challenges that you can either put in the comments or you can put in the Discord. That is okay too. All right. Okay. So I was there's something that happened before we get into the meat of it. Something happened. It hadn't happened to me in a while. I did a startup company back in 2016, and I worked so hard on that company. It has since been acquired, so I'm not doing it anymore. But I worked, 16-hour days, 18-hour days. I barely slept. It consumed my life, my sleep, my schedule, and it was a lot of fun. But I was working so hard on that I was often deeply sleep deprived. Now I sleep much better. I usually sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. That's great. But during that time, I used to sometimes be working on something and so sleepy that I would wake up after dozing off and find that I had kept working on something. I had kept writing or kept doing something, and it didn't make sense. I even one time fell asleep while I was talking. I was talking to someone, or no, maybe I was recording something. I think I was recording something. And I fell asleep, but I kept talking. I'm sleeping right now. No, just kidding, of course. But that did happen. So sometimes I would wake up from dozing off and see that I had written something that made absolutely 0 sense. And since then, since my schedule has gone back to normal these past few years, I haven't had it happen very often. But last night I was working on today's show, just preparing a few things. I was in bed on my phone writing down some notes, and I was sort of on one elbow, propped up on one elbow with my phone in my hand, and I was typing a little bit. And it happened. I dozed off. I fell asleep. And when I awoke, probably, 15 seconds later, I looked at my phone and I saw that while I was asleep, I had written the following. I left it intact in my notes, and I'm going to read it to you exactly. How's the change in Memphis? That is what I wrote. How's the change in Memphis? So that, for some reason, must have come out of my unconscious mind and typed itself out via my fingers into my notes. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. When I woke up, I didn't understand it. I still don't understand it. How is the change in Memphis? Memphis is a city in Tennessee. So I've never been there. I don't know anything about it. So you tell me. It doesn't make sense. If there are any Freudian or Jungian scholars who would like to help me break that down, I would be most appreciative. But anyway, don't worry about me. I did get plenty of sleep, and I usually, as I said, get 7 to 8 hours, which is absolutely sufficient. I've heard that when people get older, they tend to need less sleep, right? So I'm about to celebrate a birthday in 5 days, and so maybe I'm getting older, maybe I need a little less sleep, which is, I think, fantastic. Less sleep, more work. Okay. So we're going to be talking about, as I said, shadowing first, and then goals, and then I will be getting to questions. So do put those in the chat if you are watching live. Let's get to our first topic for today. We're going to be talking about a shadowing challenge. Okay? So, yes. You've probably heard about shadowing. Maybe you've heard me talk about it in the past. I'm going to assume that you know kind of how it works. It is one of many ways to improve your pronunciation. It's an exercise, and it really is very effective. And I'll talk about why it's effective. I will do a basic overview of how it works as a refresher for those of you who already know, and to explain it to those of you who don't. And then, very importantly, I'm going to actually do my own shadowing exercise. I want you to watch me do it. And I think it's a very important sort of process to see happen. And you can see how easy it is to do, because it is a very effective way to improve your pronunciation. Then at the end, I'm going to give you a challenge. I'm going to give you a challenge that I want you to do to take your pronunciation to the next level. Okay? So, here we go. Now, I think the key to really getting better with pronunciation is to get away from the idea that you need to learn how to pronounce specific words well. Yeah, that's fine, I suppose, right? As long as you're not using phonetic symbols and things like that. But it's important to emphasize that it's really sounds over words. You get into these confusing things where GH has a bunch of different pronunciation, right? Cough with an F. Okay, but through, there's no F there, right? Okay, well, great. That's confusing. Yes, it is. And that's because we get stuck on learning things word by word. And I want you to instead start learning things with your ears. I want you to instead start learning things through sounds. And that might mean not focusing on it being one word, but maybe a sound or a series of sounds that makes up 3 words, right? So if I say go over, is it helpful to think of that as 2 words in terms of pronunciation? I don't think so. It's better to think of it as a continuous sound or several sounds in order. And how do I say those sounds naturally? Go over. What's going on there? Okay, that's just an example. Now, in order to get there, you have to develop a very strong sense of awareness. I've talked about this a million times, but if you cannot notice the difference between the sound that you hear and the sound that you make when you're trying to copy it, you'll never get there. Never, ever, ever. People who are, for example, really good at doing accents, well, they have a very strong sense of awareness. They know how to imitate sounds. So I want you to learn how to do that, and the key to doing that is awareness, to be aware of what it is that makes that sound that I hear the way it is and how I can do the same thing. And then once I've tried, to be able to hear the difference between what I say and what I'm hearing so that I can make some adjustments so that I can say it better, right? And then the other part of that is to be very objective. It's very easy to get stuck in your own brain, which, yeah, is normal. But to be able to improve pronunciation, you have to be able to hear yourself as you actually sound, rather than just hearing yourself as you sound with the filter of you, whatever that is, right? And that means probably recording yourself and listening to it later. I don't know, that might be bad news to some of you, but it is really critical. Okay, so what is shadowing? Essentially, you're listening to some audio from something. And we'll talk about what audio to choose or how to choose that in a moment. But you need a little section of speech, and you're going to imitate that. You're not going to imitate it after you hear it. You're going to try as close as you can to imitate the sounds as you hear it. As you listen to the sounds, you're trying to copy those sounds exactly. That is called shadowing. And it really kind of forces you to get away from the word way of thinking about pronunciation, and instead kind of do, like, I don't know about the words, but sounds. Just do a series of sounds. Whatever you have to do to imitate the sounds that you're hearing, okay? And it should be someone probably speaking in a way that you would like to get closer to, right? So don't choose an example you don't want to learn from. I think that's pretty important. When you're doing shadowing, use your ears, not your eyes. Don't emphasize what you're seeing, emphasize what your ears are hearing, both from that over there that you're listening to, what you're shadowing, and from yourself, whatever is coming out of your mouth. Use a challenging source. That means I want you to pick something that's not ridiculously easy, like Tim and Mary walked up the hill to pick some apples. Now, if that's where you are with your pronunciation, great. But I think most of you who follow me or listen to my stuff are at a level where you're ready to really challenge yourself, right? To take it to the next level. Okay, get away from the what are the two on the hill? Jack and Jill, simple stuff, and get something real that's going to really push you, that's going to be difficult. And as I said, record yourself. That is a great way to review what you did, to train yourself to be objective, and is a great way to also teach yourself awareness. Whoa, do I sound like that? You can hear it more easily when it's a recording than when you're speaking in the moment. However, listening to yourself in a recording will kind of train you to be able to listen to yourself in the moment. So it's a great training tool, recording yourself. And if you say, I don't like how I sound, nobody does, but it's a normal thing that happens. And if you just keep pushing, you will eventually. It will be fine. Okay? Don't worry about that. Just keep doing it and you'll get used to it. Okay? So you choose a source that's short or has bookmarked segments. And I'm going to talk about exactly how to do that. Okay? I will show you. Bookmarked segments means you can easily go back, because when it comes to shadowing, repetition is key. You don't want to do something that's 10 minutes long and do it once. You want to listen to something that's 20 seconds long and get it absolutely, exactly, 100% perfectly matching the source that you choose. And that's a challenge, but it's such a challenge that you want to choose something achievable, not something that's 10 minutes long, right? It is very difficult. And don't give yourself a break. Be honest with yourself. Be objective, right? Don't say, oh, good enough. No. Is it exactly perfect? Okay? And then, as I said several times, when you're listening, when you're doing the activity itself, don't let yourself get stuck on what word is being said. Follow the sounds. Follow the sounds. And if you want to record something, I recommend having a transcript, and I will share a tool with you that I think is very useful. Okay, I'm actually going to just give you 2 pieces to use for this. Okay, Ted and Otter. Okay, if you just go with Ted and Otter, you'll be fine. TED is a very famous conference where they have many speakers talking about many different things. I'll talk about why I like TED and why you should use it, but that's what you need as a source. Okay, you can go elsewhere, of course, but I think it's a great source, and I will explain why. Otter is awesome. It is great if you work with a lot of native English speakers and you need to communicate regularly with them and you have meetings and you want to remember stuff and you struggle to keep up. Great productivity tool for recording meetings. Awesome. Besides that, as a recorder for yourself, it is fantastic, and it does create a transcript, which is great for finding segments in the recording that you want to listen to again. And that is why I recommend when you record, you have a transcript. Otter's also web-based, so they have a web-based version. You can just use it on their website in your little portal, which makes it, I think, very convenient. Okay, so that's all you need to get started. TED and Otter. TED and Otter. All right, easy. And Otter is free. Their free plan is free. They have a premium one too, but yeah. Okay, so before we get to the challenge, this is the challenge that I'm showing here. I'll read it out in a second. Before we get there, I want to actually do this together, okay? So I'm going to hop over here to TED's website, and I'm going to go to, up at the top, Watch, and then select TED Talks. This is just my recommendation, okay? You don't have to do it my way. Then I get a list of 4,100 plus talks to stir your curiosity. Great. I'm going to go instead of by newest because I want to make sure that they're translated into, if I want to see the other translations, other languages, I want to make sure the transcripts are really good, the subtitles are good, and I think it's just a good place to start in terms of content, the ones that are most popular. So we sort by, I think, most viewed. All right. All right, so here we are searching by most viewed, right, on TED.com. And I've got a talk by Sir Ken Robinson, which is fantastic. Ooh, 74 million views. Yikes. I've got a talk by Amy Cuddy. That's a good one. Your body language may shape who you are. And I've got one by Tim Urban. And his talk is really great. 63 million views. Inside the mind of a master procrastinator. Procrastinating is when you delay things. You say, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. Okay, so I'm going to click on the Tim Urban one. All right, and a couple things before we actually start. Okay. So if you want, you can turn subtitles on if you need help understanding. The reason I suggest older ones is because a lot of the newer ones don't have all the languages. If you need your language, then it's much more likely that the most popular ones will have it. Right, okay. Now that's a side point because we're really focusing on English here, right? So then we go to read transcript under the video. Okay? And you can see that now pops up underneath. We want it in English, of course, not in other languages. And the really critical thing here is that it's broken down into segments. And the other key thing is, yeah, we can see it, but actually the seeing part is, I think, not super important. I don't think it's really, really important that you can see the actual text, right? I mean, yeah, it's fine. It's great. But most importantly, you can click the play buttons above the sections of text, and you can replay those things very rapidly. That's the key. You can replay it and listen to it again and again as a way to shadow it, all right? So let's choose this section here at the beginning. 23 seconds, this little section.
And I would want to do that like that. That would be the plan. I would I would have it all ready to go, but then actually the paper would come along. And I would want to do that like that.
So I can go down
that would
to
be the
another
plan.
part.
But then, funniest thing happened. Those first few months, they came and went, and I couldn't quite do stuff. So we had an awesome new revised plan. And then...
It's a really good talk. You should check out the talk.
But then those middle months actually went by,
itself. Okay.
and I would want to do that like that. That would be the plan. I would have it all ready to go, but then...
Which section should we choose?
Get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first...
Okay, yeah, let's do this section here. He says, you get started a little slowly. You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on, everything gets done, things stay civil. Now let's listen to him say it.
You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on, everything gets done and things stay civil. And you get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first... You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough... You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on, everything gets done and things stay civil. And I would want to do that like that.
Okay.
That would be the plan.
So that's the section we're going to do.
Get started maybe a little...
And the cool thing, again, is that we have these segments that we can replay. All right, now... It's going to feel a little overwhelming because of the speed. Yet another reason we choose this website is we can go to the little gear icon and select 0.5x. Aha, now let's listen to that.
You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first...
All right, so now it begins. Now we get into what shadowing is, okay? So I'm going to do one rough one, then I'm going to start recording, then I'm going to really try it, okay? I'm going to do just a basic one.
You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first... You get started maybe a little slowly.
Get started maybe a little slowly.
Get started...
Okay, now I'm going to record. If you want to do it as they're speaking exactly on what they're saying, that's fine. If you want to try to delay it a little bit, as long as you can hear it, or if you want to do it section by section, so you hear a little part, you say that part, you hear a little part, you say that part. Any of those are honestly okay, whatever you prefer. Okay, so now I go over to Otter, and all I do is click record. I need to make sure that the recording is working. I can see based on the transcript that it is. Thank you so much, Mr. Otter. You are my friend. Okay, so that is going in the other tab, and now I'm going to get into it. Here we go. Here we go.
You get started maybe a little slowly. You get
started maybe a little slowly. You get started maybe a little slowly. And notice I'm not paying attention to the individual words. I'm really trying to focus on the sounds. You get started maybe a little. So you got to really focus on what is it that makes that sound. Maybe a little. He's really blending sounds together. Maybe a little slowly. I'm trying to follow the intonation as well, the up and the down.
You get started maybe a little slow.
You're not saying you get started. You get started maybe a little slowly, okay?
You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week.
But you get it, and he also not saying but you get, right? But so there's a but you get like that. But you get enough done. I'm doing it like a drunk person because that's how it sounds when it's slowed down, but I think I can speed it up. But you get enough done. You get a... Oh, I need to hear if he's breaking you get or you get.
That with some heavier days later on. You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week with some heavier days later on. You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that you get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later.
Okay, but you get enough done in the first week that, and he says that instead of that. Notice the stop sound. But you get enough done in the first week that
you get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on.
Some heavier days later on. Some heavier days later on.
Everything gets done, things stay civil.
Everything gets done, things stay civil.
You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on. Everything gets done, things stay civil.
Civil. Okay. All right, one more time.
You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on.
Everything
gets done, things stay civil.
Things stay civil. Okay, let's try to increase the speed. And I'll do it on my own, and then I'll listen to the recording and see if it's similar. Okay, here we go. 1x speed.
You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week. You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on. Everything gets done, things stay civil.
Okay, I think that's not bad.
You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on. Everything gets done, things stay civil.
All right, I'm going to try one on my own. You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that some heavier days later on, everything gets done, things stay civil. I'm going to do a slightly longer pause before the everything gets done. You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that some heavier days later on, everything gets done, things stay civil. So I'm trying to there remember doing it after the intonation, the civil at the end, the emphasis, the stress. There's a lot going on. Linking words together. How to make all the words sounds. The intonation, the stress on different parts. There's a lot happening. That's why you got to stick with something very short. Okay, let's pause my recording here. And then I'll go back to... Okay. All right. I'm trying to remember civil at the end. Maybe you get everything gets done. Things say civil. The transcription is not perfect here, to be honest with you. I'm reading through it just to see. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's just start it from here. Let's play it. Play my recording. I want to play. How do I play? Oh, I have to hit stop recording. All right, now I have my recording. 11 seconds ago, I click on... Okay, let's do this last part.
That everything gets done. You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that some heavier days later on, everything gets done, things stay civil. So I'm trying to there remember doing it after the intonation, everything gets done.
Oh, I think it's recording on my other microphone using my computer mic.
You get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that some heavier days later on, everything gets done, things stay civil.
Oh. All right, so not too bad.
There remember doing...
All right, that's enough. Thank you. Wow, okay. So I think that's a good example of how to do this exercise. That is a good way to get started, right? Keep challenging yourself, keep pushing yourself. It is something that takes time, takes practice, But this way of working on pronunciation, although it may be, slightly boring, is very powerful. So, my challenge then for you is to choose a video. Doesn't have to be this one. Choose a video from TED for the reasons I stated. Use a section of it, not the whole video, just a little section for shadowing. Choose the section you're going to use, and then share your recordings. Feel free to put those in the comments, or you can share them in the community Discord in the group. Okay? So good luck with that. If you really want to get serious about your pronunciation, you can check out my full courses. I have several courses on pronunciation. You can check those out in the link in the description. There are a few links, actually. You can check those out. Also, if you haven't already done so, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe. Okay. So we have some more things to cover. I'm just going to take a slight coffee break. See who we have here today. Alejandro is here. Welcome. Hello. Naksukashi. Hello. I'd like to find someone to practice and have some conversations. Skype. I don't understand Discord. Okay, well, it's not hard to learn. Discord is just an app. It's a service. Hello, Luke. Hi, Vitali, I think. And Maria Clara Marquez. Hello, welcome. Good to have you here. So feel free to do the challenge. Jorge, hello from Brazil. Welcome. Guys, it's good to have you here. I do want to cover a few more things before we get to the questions, but feel free to pop those in as we go along. I think, the pronunciation challenge, I think, also has to do with goals, and we're going to get into that too. It's not only how you practice, it's also how you sort of set your targets and what a reasonable goal is. It's a fuzzy thing, so we're definitely going to get into that. But if you have questions about methods for pronunciation, about how to improve or sound a specific way, feel free to let me know. I think it's weird. Well, I'm surprised that when it comes to improving pronunciation, listening never gets mentioned, right? It's kind of weird. We think of pronunciation as something that improves by learning how to move your mouth in specific ways, right? But that is only part of it. There's a bigger picture, and the bigger picture is when you're a baby, you are immersed in a language. And in that process of immersion, you pick up the unique sounds of your language, also known as phonemes. And when you start to learn the ability to speak, you start putting together those phonemes into things that are similar to words, dada and mama, or whatever your first words were or are, right? You're putting these things together, but you got them because you were surrounded by them, listening to them. So the source of you getting a feeling for how to start saying things ultimately came through your ears, not your eyes, right? Probably. It came through your ears, the sound of it. But when we grow up and start learning second languages, we no longer emphasize that listening component. But we really are listening creatures, right? Ancient humans sitting by the fire, listening to stories, relating stories. Before there was writing, everything was oral, spoken, auditory, right? You hear stories, you communicate by listening, you express your thoughts by speaking. And so there's actually some tribes, for example, in New Guinea who emphasize this and have amazing memory capacities because they're not writing stuff down. Instead, they rely heavily on sound, listening, and storing information as sort of encoded sounds in their brains, and then calling it up as they need it. Okay, well, let's get back then to pronunciation. It's kind of the same thing, right? You don't want to create a bunch of intermediate steps between the sounds and how it should be said, because those are actually more likely to confuse you than help you say something very clearly. The most successful, let's say, English learners, the ones who have that really clear pronunciation, and we all say, wow, he or she sounds so natural. Those people tend to be really good at picking up sounds naturally. They emphasize listening. But then teachers in school or wherever, they don't want to talk about something that's so hard to measure, right? Kind of so hard to talk about. And so everything gets written down in rules and symbols, and we completely emphasize the written part of the language or the output of the language, and we lose the emphasis or the focus on the input of the language and its importance on coming in through the ear holes, right? So I want to highlight this as extremely important, because if you want to sound a certain way or you want to correct something, ultimately, you got that example by listening to it. And in order to get closer to that, you have to start to notice what it is about that you think sounds really good and what you can do to sound more like that. And the tool that you're using throughout this whole process is your ear, your ability to hear differences and nuances and subtle things. So it's very important. I think it would be good if you don't do it already, increase your input, especially the things that you listen to, for so many reasons, not only for pronunciation, but also for learning, right? To be able to process language around you in English through your ears instead of reading it. A lot of English learners can read better than they can listen to conversations, and also to start to get your or improve your pronunciation directly from the source, being the sounds. I think if you start doing that, if you start listening to more podcasts, listening to books, doing shadowing, doing things like that, overall you're going to see that you improve significantly. That's just my opinion, but I've seen it play out many, many times. Okay. Hello, Karyav. Good to have you. Hello from Bangkok. Gina, hello. Good to have you. Uhu, George. Okay. Any questions that I have missed? I don't think so. All right. Fair enough. Small coffee break, and then we'll get into it. No questions yet. What a surprise. It's such a rare thing. Usually there are a bunch of questions today. 0 questions. I'm shocked. Okay. So we're going to go to our next topic in that case and talk a bit about pronunciation goals. All right? Pronunciation goals. Okay. If you don't know what you're aiming at, then you're likely going to just sort of wander around, doing things randomly. And that's not so good. When it comes to pronunciation, you need to have clear goals. The problem is, with goals around pronunciation, it's a bit fuzzy. It's hard to make goals Because what are you really trying to do when you improve your pronunciation? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about why that's difficult and how you can set your goals. And then I am going to give you a challenge for how you can start making your own pronunciation goals. We'll do that at the end, okay? So, first, why is it difficult to set specific goals around improving pronunciation? It's not like you got the right or the wrong answer on an English exam. A lot of grammar questions, for example, would be, it's right or it's wrong. You should have used the past tense, you used the present tense. It is wrong, right? That's fairly objective. It's very clear cut. Okay, well, pronunciation is not really like that because there's often no clear right or wrong answer. And so the whole topic of pronunciation is a bit fuzzy. That also makes it a bit difficult to measure your progress. How do you get better at something if you don't know by what measure you're getting better? You're not even sure what things to look at to decide, hey, I'm improving or I'm not improving, right? The other part I think is not really talked about. Some people think what they want, for example, is to sound exactly like an American, even though they are not from America, or they want to sound exactly like a British person, even though they're not from England, okay? You can have whatever goals you like, but my opinion is that is not a great goal. It's not a great goal to want to take on completely 100% another accent, because you're never going to get there 100%, because there will be cultural things that you didn't happen to grow up with that will be missing, right? And that's fine, right? That's great that you come into the language not from your childhood but later on, but trying to say, therefore, I will imitate exactly a British accent or an American accent will likely lead to some awkwardness. It'll be a little bit odd. I don't think that's the best goal, but that doesn't mean you can't learn from, for example, American accents or British accents to make your pronunciation much more clear and sound much more fluent. So you have to be clear about that, right? You want to, for example, if I moved to a city in another country with another native language, and I started speaking exactly like the locals, the sounds were exactly the same. There would always be something slightly off. Number one, because I'm not a local, right? And number two, because I don't have that sort of cultural background. So it's more likely that I will hopefully be able to get really fluent and sound really natural, right? But always have maybe a slightly Americanized sound. And I think that is totally okay. I think we need to be okay with that, actually. Okay? So first, identify what your issues really are. What are the problems? For example, people always misunderstand me. Yeah, that is an actual problem that you should work on. If the funny one, for example, focus, right? F-O-C-U-S. Well, there's a pretty awful mispronunciation of that one, right? And if you say that in a meeting, it can cause problems, awkwardness, judgments, and you don't want that. You don't want to be misunderstood, right? Maybe you don't like how you sound. Okay. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should necessarily want to sound like a native American, a native English speaker from the United States. For example, maybe you just think your accent is a little too strong and you want to make it milder. Okay, I think that's great. I'm not using stress correctly. Yeah, that's a fair one. A lot of English learners, they're not focusing on the right words or the right syllables in words, and that causes misunderstandings or a feeling of stiffness, and you want to sound more natural. Stress is very important. Intonation, very important for sounding natural. Maybe you just want to be able to communicate better, more effectively, right? And pronunciation, clear, natural pronunciation is a big part of that. Okay, fair. So very clearly identify what it is, okay? Then I would like you to make I want statements. Okay, so you know what your main issues are, at least what you think your main issues are, and, ask for help from a teacher or someone else if you want to figure that out and you don't know. Then, where do you want to be in a year? If you actually work on it, what do you want? So make some I want statements. I want to feel more confident when I speak. That's a very broad one, but I think that's fine. I want to have that international sound. Now that, I think, is a good goal. It's hard to describe what it is, but when you hear it, you know it. It's not a strong accent of any place in particular. It sounds kind of neutral, right? Everyone understands it well, and it's, as I said, not easily identifiable. I think that is a great goal. It's not so clear exactly, what is it that makes it that, but it's easier to say what things it is not. And we'll maybe talk about that in another lesson, okay? I want to use intonation effectively. I think my rising and falling sounds a little odd. Maybe I know that I need to blend words to sound more natural when I'm speaking, right? But I don't know how to do that automatically. Well, that's a practice issue. Okay, that's a good one. I want to I want correct pronunciation to be a habit. That means that I want to say the word as it should be every time naturally without having to correct myself or think too much, right? It's just a habit. And good pronunciation should be a habit, because you're thinking about so many things when you're speaking, right? You don't want to have to be thinking about correct pronunciation. You want to just say what you want to say, okay? So this is it. And after you've identified the issues and you have decided what you want, then make a simple plan. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do, but maybe you do shadowing 3 times a week. Maybe you do 10 lessons with one-on-one lessons with an English teacher. And they can point out things that are not so clear, that might be causing misunderstandings. They can help get you closer to that international sound that you may or may not want. Right? Maybe you record yourself speaking freestyle about a topic once a week, and you listen back to that and you make a few notes about things you could improve. All of these things you can do, and they're going to hopefully get you closer, if they're the right things, get you closer to the things that you want within a year. It doesn't have to be a year. I'm just giving you a basic framework that you can use, okay? So this is the process. You identify your primary issues. If you don't know them, get help from someone else, a teacher, or a friend whose English is better than yours, someone who can notice these things. You might be able to notice a lot of things yourself. 2, decide what you actually want and think about whether you actually want to have an American accent or a British accent, okay? I think it's a better goal to have that international accent. And then 3, make a specific plan that you're going to follow. Don't make it too overwhelming. Make it achievable. Make it something that you can continue for a long period of time. Persistence and consistency are much more important than, doing something intensely over a couple of weeks and then giving up because it's too much, right? That's called burnout, and we don't want that. You want to be able to continue it long term, okay? So, simple challenge for you. I want you to do these things that we just talked through. Identify your problems. Make at least 3 I want statements, right? And then write down the things you're going to do, okay? You can share that in the comments. You can also share that in the community that we have, a Discord community for practicing learning English. Put it in the challenges section, or as I said again, you can put it in the comments, okay? Let me know how it goes. good luck. If you want to really get serious about pronunciation and learn more about it, you can check out my courses. I have several pronunciation courses in the links in the description. And of course, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. All right. Okay, now we do have some more things to talk about later on, but if there are any questions now, I can answer them. Alejandro says, Luke, how's your writing course doing? My writing course, I'm working on a writing fundamentals course. It's going to be about 8 hours long, and I'm in the final review stage. I'm getting very close to finishing it. My hope is to be able to get it out to launch it before the end of the month. We'll see how it goes. If I do, when I launch it, I always do the same thing when I launch a course. I want to be able to get as much feedback as I can on it, so I always launch it with a big discount, the biggest discount I can give, right? So if you ever see a launch of a course, just know that the launch price is the lowest price I'm able to offer. I just do that because, well, I obviously want people to sign up for it, but I also want to get as much feedback as I can because I do make updates to courses over time. Okay, so I want to go over a tongue twister later on. But for now, do you guys have any questions about pronunciation, idioms, phrases, grammar, writing, culture, or whatever? I think now would be a good time to ask. I can answer a few questions. Thanks for sticking around for the first part. I appreciate that. Saturday, we'll be doing a live stream on Friday. I'm thinking of doing a different format for Friday, so here's what I'm thinking, and we'll see how it goes. I'm always making adjustments, but I'm thinking of doing something Wednesday, kind of more formal, lessons, that sort of stuff. Friday, a little more relaxed, a little more cultural, maybe more videos and some more Blackboard stuff, maybe some idioms and sort of freestyle Q&A. And then we'll see how it goes. But last Saturday, Mushroom and I did our first discussion. And I think we're going to keep doing it, or at least we will this Saturday. So this Saturday we'll be doing a special sort of birthday one because it is my birthday coming up very soon. Okay. All right. So if you have, again, questions, put those in the chat. In the meantime, we have a tongue twister thing I wanted to share with you. So I like to make my own tongue twisters. I think it's fun. It's a good way to... tongue twisters are a good way to practice specific pronunciation issues that you might have, right? So you can make your own as a way to sort of push yourself to practice specific things. And I like to make them to help my students, but I kind of want to show you how to make them yourself and give you hopefully some insights on what makes a good tongue twister, what makes a useful tongue twister, and maybe what type not to do, right? Okay, so we'll get to that. We've talked about shadowing. We've talked about building goals. And we're going to be getting to the tongue twister. Okay. Alejandro says, yesterday I was watching some movie and the expression get a grasp drew my attention. Now I know what it means, but I think it's a nice expression. I think get a grip is probably the one you were looking at. Get a grasp is not really a common expression, but get a grip is really common. Yeah, well, let's talk about that one because grasp is used, but it's different from grip, right? Right. So Alejandro says, yesterday I was watching some movie and the expression get a grasp drew my attention. Okay. So the common expression is get a grip, right? But to grasp something is also very common. It's just not usually get a grasp. It's usually just grasp it. So let's talk about both of those then. So get a grip, very common idiom, and usually it is used when someone is losing their sense of reality, right? Or they're so upset that they can't function properly in the moment, right? They have maybe lost their keys to their car and they start running around saying, oh, my keys, oh, if I can't find my keys, right? You see them in that state and you say, okay, this person is kind of lost touch with reality in the moment. They're letting their emotions control them. And it could be a positive thing, it could be a negative thing, right? If your friend is gambling and they win 3 times in a row, but each time they keep increasing the amount of their betting, you might be concerned. They're starting to sort of get high on success, if that makes sense. And the first time they bet 100 and the second time they bet 500 and now they're betting 1,000. And I can't lose. I'm unstoppable. I'm on a roll. I'm on a streak. I have great luck today. You want to bring them back down to the ground. You want to bring them back to reality. So whether it's a good thing, a positive emotion, or a negative one, something is overwhelming them. Something is pulling them away from balance. And you want to almost slap them across the face. In fact, in movies, you often see someone slap somebody across the face and say, get a grip, will you? Will you get a grip? Get a grip, okay? So to get a grip is to sort of, you've started floating away. And imagine that the ground has handles. So if you grab onto the handles, okay, then you're back on the ground. You're balanced again, okay? So you're kind of getting a grip on reality again after being carried away by a strong emotion. Again, even if it's for just a moment. And sometimes we use it more generally when we feel someone is so confused or deluded in their minds that they don't know what's happening, they don't know what's going on. So we say, I think you need to get a grip. I can't believe that you think that that's true. So something they think is true, which is you think clearly not true, most people think is clearly not true. You say then what you need is to get a grip, okay? And maybe you can help them at that point. All right, so that's generally what the expression means. Now, can we say get a grasp and it means the same thing? No. Idioms are interesting because you have to say them as they are said. That's how idioms work. Idioms and expressions must be said exactly as they are, right? Okay. But grasp does mean something. You can grasp something to mean hold on to it, but it feels a bit formal, right? Like grasp the handle. Well, probably we'll just say grab the handle as the action. But we often use grasp when we're talking about understanding things, particularly a concept, an idea, right? I'm trying to grasp the basic concept of the lecture, but it's so hard because it's a really difficult topic. I'm trying to get my head around it. We say that too. I'm trying to understand it. I'm trying to comprehend it, right? If you can't grasp it, then you can't comprehend it. You can't understand it, right? It could be for something like a theory or a concept, but it could be someone's motivations. Someone has lost touch with reality. They need to get a grip, and I don't understand how they could have gambled away $20,000. I'm trying to grasp why you thought it was a good idea to put a $10,000 bet on a UFC fight. What is wrong with you? So there, I'm not saying to you, get a grip, although I might say that too. I'm talking about myself. I'm not able to understand or comprehend why you would have taken that action, how you could have done something so risky. Unless you have $20 million, then $10,000 is nothing. Well, that's fine. But if you only have $20,000, then $10,000 is half of your money, in which case that is a foolish thing to do, and I can't grasp why you would have decided that was a good idea. So generally, that's how grasp and get a grip are used. It's not that hard. The best thing to do is try to make some of your own examples to really get a grasp of how to use it so that you can get a grip. That doesn't quite work. You can grasp how to use it by making your own examples. And if you don't, and you walk around saying you understand it, but actually you don't because you didn't make examples, then I will find you and say, hey, get a grip. And start making your own examples. Okay, good question from Alejandro. Getting a good knowledge about, get a grasp. Yeah, it's just not usually used with grasp, so that's uncommon. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's go to tongue twisters. And I made my own. We'll see how it goes. We're going to talk about, where are we? Tongue twisters now. Hop over to the blackboard. A tongue twister. You probably know Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, how many pickled peppers did Peter Piper pick? We all know that one, right? That's the classic Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers tongue twister. Number one, are tongue twisters a good way to improve your pronunciation? And which ones should you practice? Well, there are plenty out there. You can just Google tongue twisters. But I think it can be worthwhile to make your own, right? To think about the sounds that are tough for you and then try to make tongue twisters, challenge yourself to make tongue twisters that will push you to practice the sounds that are difficult. So that answers the first question, which is, yes, they can be very useful. Tongue twisters are useful in helping you build the muscle memory that you need to make sounds correctly as a habit. It's one of the biggest problems with pronunciation is I have to think about how to say that word. You shouldn't have to think about how to say something correctly. It should be automatic. Okay, well, how do I make it automatic? Repetition, practice. And one way to do that would be tongue twisters. Tongue twisters, things that are difficult to say, usually short, and usually emphasizing one or two specific sounds. Okay? So I made a couple of my own, and I want to share with you how I did that, and then talk a little bit about how you can do it, and then we'll actually do a bit of practice here with our tongue twisters. Okay? So here's my first example. Now, what I thought was, okay, let's imagine that I need to make the V sound clearly. Let's say I struggle with the V sound. And maybe I want to throw in some S's that I struggle with. Maybe I want to use the voiced S sound that's a Z sound a few times and really push myself to do those quickly, okay? So you make a tongue twister like this. All you do is make a single sentence. Just keep it short, keep it sweet. And it doesn't have to be a beautiful sentence. It doesn't have to make perfect sense. But I would recommend making it not just random words, right? If it's just random words, I think it's not going to be very memorable. I don't think it's the best way to practice. my recommendation would be to make a sentence that's at least grammatically correct, to not worry too much about what it really means or that it's a sentence that makes a lot of sense. A sentence that makes a lot of sense, a sentence that makes a lot of sense. There's a tongue twister. But at least grammatically consistent, right? So that's what I did here. I found some words. I've got, let me get my pen here. So I've got 1V, 2Vs, 3Vs, 4Vs, 5Vs, and then I've got some S's as Z's. I've got metaphors, overuse, omnivores, right? I've got a couple of S's here too, but that's not my main focus. Okay. So I know what I'm trying to practice. If you make the words in advance and then build the sentence, it might be a little difficult, but you can try that. What I like to do is just sort of start writing, and eventually I can figure out how to make a sentence. It might be a little more challenging for you if you want to start with the words and try to piece them together. It's okay, but everyone has their own way of doing it. The key thing, though, is just to find those words that are tough to say that have those sounds, right? And you also want to make it challenging to say all at once, maybe because the sounds are close together or because there are many of them or because they sound similar to other things, right? And you want to start slow. So that's the key. Start slow, and then increase speed. If you say it fast the first time and it's wrong, then you're not really working on your habits, right? You start slow, just like learning the piano, and you gradually increase in speed over time. Yeah, that's how you get better at anything, right? Okay. So we start slow. Voluntary omnivores obviously overuse various metaphors. Okay, so I've got some really nice sounds there. Now, what I want to make sure I do is I want to link together the sounds between words that are voiced, and then obviously overuse, that's linked together. Use various, that's linked together, and various metaphors is not. Okay, because S is unvoiced, right? This S is unvoiced. So I'll do the whole thing again, slowly, but now linking the words together. Voluntary omnivores obviously overuse various metaphors. Okay? I want to get it down. I want to make sure it's perfect. You can record yourself if you like. Voluntary omnivores obviously overuse various metaphors. Now I'm going to gradually increase the speed of the sentence, making sure that I still say it correctly every time. If I make a mistake, I'll go back. Voluntary omnivores obviously overuse various metaphors. 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 It's about as fast as I can say it, right? But I'm listening carefully to myself to make sure I'm not making any mistakes. And don't give yourself a break. If you say something wrong, go back. Because the whole point is you're training your muscle memory, right? So build your own, make them into sentences. Don't worry about the meaning. Don't worry too much about the meaning, right? Focus on the sounds, include the words that have the sounds, then gradually increase in speed, slowly, more quickly, until you go as fast as you can without making a mistake. All right, great. So that's fairly straightforward. I've made 2 others just for fun, and I think it would be fun to just quickly go through those. I'm not quite sure why my eraser is so tiny. I have a comically small eraser at this point, but I'll eventually get there. Okay, here we go. So now let's go to the next example. Now the next one you can see emphasizes the TH sound. So I'm emphasizing TH here, unvoiced, TH here, voiced, or If I want, I can pronounce this as C-L-O-S-E. In fact, C-L-O-T-H-E-S and C-L-O-S-E, we usually pronounce those in the same way. Okay, and then closet, closet. Okay, so that's going to be a Z sound. Was, that's going to be a Z sound. Close, that's going to be a Z sound. And also Martha's is a Z sound. So I'm working on the Z and I'm working on the TH sound as well. Other voiced sound, right? Then TH voiced sound. Heather, TH voiced sound. Brother, TH voiced sound. And then Arthur is an unvoiced sound. Okay, so I want to throw in an unvoiced one to make sure that I know how to do both close together. Now, sometimes there are words that allow you to practice these things that are difficult. I'm here mostly practicing the voiced TH and the voiced S, the Z sound and the th sound, but I'm throwing in a few other things too. There are some words, for example, if you struggle with this S-O-M-E-T-H-I-N-G, saying that by itself can be a tongue twister. Something, 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 something. It's difficult for a lot of people. Okay, so now we start slowly and increase speed. Martha's clothes closet was closed by none other than Heather's brother Arthur. Martha's clothes closet was closed by none other than Heather's brother Arthur. Now, I'm really liking this flowing sound here, none other than. That was not on purpose when I made it, but I'm just realizing now, none other than, none other. That's got a nice little cadence to it. So I'm going to try to maintain that as I increase speed. Martha's clothes closet was closed by none other than Heather's brother Arthur. Martha's clothes closet was closed by none other than Martha's clothes closet was closed by none other than Heather's brother Arthur. Martha's clothes closet was closed by none other than Heather's brother Arthur. Wow, that's a tough one. None other than, none other than, none other than. That's a fun one. Closed by none other than, none other than. None other than Heather's brother Arthur. I like that. Now notice also I'm linking together the sounds so that it flows very nicely. If you try to do a tongue twister in a way that's not blended together, you're going, it's going to sound unnatural, right? Because if I say Martha's clothes closet was closed by none other than each word broken up sounds really bad. Okay, now we'll do one more of these that I have made, and I think you'll see right away what we are trying to practice with this one. Okay. This one, a lot of people struggle with the S, the unvoiced S sound, but also having the T close to the S, right? And putting the W in there too. So WT and S, WT and unvoiced S for this one, okay? My Swiss, and also the other thing I think we're working on here is knowing the pronunciations of words that maybe look different but actually are pronounced the same. Different spellings. So these are called homophones. My Swiss sweet is suited. Notice same spelling, different sound. My Swiss sweet is suited to. Now there, especially for tongue twisters, but often in spoken English, instead of saying to, it's what we call a schwa sound. Schwa is a very important sound. It's a vowel sound that we use for unstressed syllables. And instead of saying, for example, to, we say t, 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 t. Okay, so my Swiss sweet is suited. This is the O sound. My Swiss sweet is suited to store sweets, suave suits, and swanky sweat socks. So we got the W, SW, SW in a row. Sweat, swanky sweat socks. That's a tough one to say very quickly, right? So again, slowly. My Swiss sweet is suited to store sweets, suave suits. So we're practicing that sound. A lot of people struggle with that at the end, but then the Swiss, and sweat, right? and just the S sound by itself. Suave, store, right? This one followed by the T, but practicing that S sound. We've got another swt here, and also this S-U-I-T-E, the first one is pronounced sweet, right? And this one is suit, S-U-I, as in like it fits me, is pronounced suit. It suits you, okay? But when you go to a hotel and you get the really nice room, that is the suite room, pronounced exactly the same as S-W-E-E-T. Okay. My Swiss suite. Oh, also notice that I'm linking together sounds that have shared sounds, or rather words that have shared sounds. So Swiss suite, notice they share the S. Swiss suite, that's very key. That's critical. And then sweet, suave, right? And do we have any others here? Swiss sweet, suave. No, but we do have a suited to, so we don't have to say suited to, we put those together. We bump them up against each other. Here we go. My Swiss suite is suited to store sweet, suave suits and swanky sweats. That's my brain wants to say sweat socks. I'll try that one more time. Man, I made a hard one for myself. Okay. My Swiss suite is suited to store sweets. Sorry, I'm going to slow down a little bit. Okay, here we go. My Swiss suite is suited to store sweet, suave suits and swanky sweat socks. Okay, there we go. My Swiss suite is suited to store sweet, suave suits and swanky sweat socks. My Swiss suite is suited to store sweet, suave suits and swanky sweat socks. My Swiss suite is suited to store sweet, suave suits and swanky sweat socks. Wow, very difficult. That is a tough one. So, find what sounds are tough for you. Build your own tongue twisters. You can look for them, of course, but I think the ones you build yourself are going to be most unique to you, right? Make it one sentence. Make them pretty short. Start slowly and then slowly increase the speed. Make sure you're working on your muscle memory. That is one tool you have to help you get to pronouncing things clearly without having to think about it. Making pronunciation a habit via muscle memory. Okay. Hello, Camila. Good to have you. Do you know a good tongue twister using SH? Yeah. She sells seashells by the seashore. 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 There we go. Ah, that's a tough one for me. Shadowing should show that she should be sure that shadowing should show her the show. Hey, that's pretty good. Alejandro's got a good one here. Shadowing should show that she should be sure that shadowing should show that she should be sure that shadowing should show her the show. It's a good one. That's great. Awesome. Perfect. Shadowing should show that shadowing should show you that she should be sure that shadowing should show her the show. Shadowing should show you that she should be sure that shadowing should show her the show. Shadowing should show you that shadowing should show you that she should be sure that shadowing should show her the show. Nice one. Thank you, Alejandro. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining. We've covered a lot today. We've talked about shadowing, how to do it, when to do it, why to do it, where to do it. We've talked about building pronunciation goals and how you do that effectively so you know where you're going and you don't feel lost. We've talked about a tongue twister. We had one or two questions. We've talked about a tongue twister to build your own as a way to build muscle memory for your pronunciation. Thank you all so much for joining. I appreciate it. If you have any questions that I didn't answer or didn't get to or didn't see, just let me know in the comments or join the Discord community. You can do that, well, in Discord, in the links in the description. That is free. Also, you can check out my full courses, starting with a free course, Natural English Conversations. So check that out as well. And don't forget, of course, to hit the like button, subscribe, or show your support wherever you happen to be watching or listening. Have a fantastic Wednesday, everyone. I appreciate you joining. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you being here. Keep working on your English. Do the challenges. Make a plan for yourself. Step by step, you will definitely get better. And I will see you on Friday. Take care, everyone. See you next time.